this on your ear. So it's like a diva mic.
I have red shoes in this. I'm good. So I have your mic, and I'm told I'm now a diva. So what do I do? Okay, tell I'm not used to this. Okay, could you hold this 1 second? So
What you do is this goes around the back, and this goes on your back of your ear.
Good evening, everybody. And welcome to Shattered, Lust and Lies, seminar on human trafficking. Throughout the program, if you have any questions, you can text them to the number up there. It'll go to Kelly's Google number or something, right? Kelly, is that it? The Google number? So she'll get all the questions that you have, and she'll be responding to them after her lecture on human trafficking. Also, if you want to tweet anything or post anything on Facebook, there's all the stuff that she has, like at Dining D for Dignity or hashtag Shattered or hashtag human trafficking. So it's all together. So if there's anything that you really maybe inspired you tonight, some quote or some numbers or something that you want to share to get more awareness out. I've known Kelly probably for at least 13 or 14 years, if not longer. We first met when I worked with her son at a cafe. And I've known her over the years. She's done Bible studies at our coffee shop. And recently, about 2 years ago, I think was the first time Kelly came and spoke to our youth group. And I'd never heard of human trafficking before that. And I know a lot of us in the youth group, a lot of my kids and a couple of the parents were really blown away by the things that she had to say and how close to home human trafficking is. It's not something that just happens overseas, as she'll get to. I'm not going to steal her thunder now. And then we've done stuff off and on with Dining for Dignity, her organization, over the last 2 years. Last semester, I did a 25-page paper on human trafficking, and she's told me some things, but when you really study it and research it after reading book after book and article after article, your heart just really breaks for these people that are just treated like worse than property. And I don't want to give all the statistics out because that's her job. But I know for me, my heart just broke hearing about these stories of people, and I wanted to do something. And I think the beginning thing is just raising awareness, because truthfully, awareness saves lives, and that's the beginning part of it. And that's what we're here to do tonight, because it could save a future life or can help to break somebody free from slavery people that are already being trafficked. So I'd like to introduce Kelly Master to you.
thanks, Randy. Am I already on? Can you hear me? Yes? Am I good? Okay. I just had to get my computer going really quick. I have to get all set up because once I get moving, I'm like a train that doesn't stop. But before I get started, my business cards are in the back, and the reason I tell you that is Randy mentioned I'm going to be talking about some intense stories I'm going to be sharing. If you have any questions, even after you leave tonight, yes, you can text them in tonight, but if you go home and you have any questions or you want to see an article of something that I speak about, call me, write me, text me. If there's just something that, sometimes it takes a while to process some of the things that I'm going to share with you. So if you wake up tomorrow and you're like, I just have a question about that, feel free. Feel free to call me, text me, email me, whatever you need to do. I'll be happy to speak with you and happy to clarify anything. But I also have these books back there, and this is called Walking Pray. And one of the stories I'm going to be telling you about is Holly Austin Smith. Well, she's the author of this book, and she's from New Jersey. She's a columnist, and she's an author, and she's a biologist, and she's an amazing woman. She works closely with the law officers across the United States so that they can be equipped, so that they know what to look for from the eyes of a trafficking victim, a young girl when she was 14 years old. I highly encourage you to pick up this book. It's loaded with resource information. Randy has a copy, and he used it as part of his paper. I ask that you would get this and resource yourself, because one of the things you're going to walk away with tonight is, what can I do? The first thing you need to do is resource and educate yourself. so that you can then resource and educate others and be eyes and ears in your community. So I'm just going to give this one away, and I don't know how we're going to do that without little tickets, so don't lie. Not that you would ever do that in church, but is today's anybody's birthday today? This week? This month? All righty, here you go. Yay. And if it wasn't, you can just say, yeah. But okay, so what is human trafficking? I believe, Randy, you're going to speak a little bit about labor trafficking afterwards? A couple minutes? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to speak mainly about sex trafficking. That's my passion. That's my fire. Sexual exploitation, fires me up. And I'm like a pit bull, when it comes to those kind of things because I have no tolerance for it. None at all. And so human trafficking, when I say human trafficking, it has many faces, but I'm going to speak directly to sex trafficking. I'm going to speak directly to sexual exploitation. And what that means is somebody is being sold for commercial sex, and somebody else is making money on them. That's the cut-down version of what that really means. Here's the exact version. It's modern-day slavery. It involves controlling a person through force, fraud, to exploit the victim for forced labor, sexual exploitation, or both. Human trafficking strips victims of their freedom and violates our nation's promise that every person in the United States is guaranteed to their basic human rights. It is a crime against humanity. And see, many of you might be where I was a couple of years ago. One, never heard the word. I had no idea. The only thing I knew about was prostitution, and the girl was choosing to do that on her own. I had no idea what human trafficking was. And when I began to uncover what human trafficking was, there was a great disconnect because what I learned was it was happening on the streets in India, and Cambodia, and Thailand, and Dominican Republic. But see, even though it hurt my heart to read those stories about these little girls and these little boys being sold, it didn't break my heart because there was a disconnect, because it was over there and it wasn't impacting me. But like Randy, as I began to research and as I began to educate and inform myself, and I began to read stories and read everything I could get my hands on the internet and watch videos, I was undone. I was undone. It was no longer a choice, like if I can do something. It was just an absolute compelling in my soul that I must do something, that I must raise my voice, that I must take a stand, that I must do something because there are victims all over the world and somebody needs to be their voice. When I began to find out that it was happening in New Jersey, in my own backyard, that rocked my world. That was a game changer. See, it was all right in my mind if it wasn't all right, but it was almost acceptable if it was happening to the girl on drugs on the streets of Camden. And even though I don't like that, there was this disconnect still. Even though I'm in Collingswood, 5 minutes from Camden, there was a disconnect because, she's, quote, a drug addict on the street. See how we justify that because we don't want to touch it. And I'm not saying my passion will be everyone's passion, but I do firmly believe that each one of us has an opportunity to do something. Whether it's educate ourselves, whether it's be a set of eyes in our community, be a set of ears in our community, and just say, hey, you know what? Not on my watch. And for those who are Christian in here, it's not a choice. God says when one member suffers, we all suffer. And so as a Christian, there's even a greater call for social justice in our own hearts and our own spirits. But that's the technical term of human trafficking. It's hard to nail statistics. Everybody wants to know statistics. It's hard to nail statistics because it's an underground, behind the scenes, a crime that's going on. See, in in India, in Thailand, in Cambodia, it's happening on the streets. You don't have to ask. It's right there on the streets. In America, it's happening right here. Right here. Right here. On the internet, on your telephone. This is where human trafficking has taken place in America, sexual trafficking. Just yesterday, there was a bust, I don't know who had seen it, in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. There was a man from out of state who was trafficking a woman in New Jersey, holding her against her will and selling her at a local hotel, and had been selling her for quite some time. And see, previously, we would have just viewed that as society, as prostitution. She's probably a drug addict, right? How we write them off. probably a drug addict, and she's probably prostituting herself, not realizing that if you take one step further in looking at this, that you realize that she's being held against her will, and she is being sold against her will, and somebody else is making money on her. That qualifies as human trafficking in the state of New Jersey. And therefore, yesterday, that case just represents one in many. And as we go on, I'm going to share a couple of these. You know, the FBI and the missing and exploited children, they'll say that 100,000 to 300,000 children a year are at risk. Now, I don't know if that number is accurate or not. I have no idea even how they get that number. So let's just say, you know, for the skeptics, let's just say that's grossly exaggerated. Okay, 100,000 to 300,000 is grossly exaggerated, although they will tell you it's not exaggerated, it's actually minimal. But let's just say it's only 25,000. Isn't 25,000 enough to get our attention that in the United States of America there are children being sold every single day, and especially through the internet? Do you know what the FBI says? That the average age, and you're going to see it on one of the videos that we're going to show, the average age of a victim in America is 12 to 14 years old. 12 to 14. My daughter's 13 and a half. I can't imagine somebody hurting her once. But over and over and over again. They say that gangs are rapidly turning to selling girls and selling boys for trafficking instead of drugs because it's safer. And the reason it's safer is if a cop pulls you over and he sees drugs in your car, or he smells a joint that you were smoking, or sees a line of coke on your dashboard, he can immediately take you to jail. He can immediately take you. He can immediately take your car. But if he sees a child in your car, if he sees somebody in your car, what's he going to do? That's my daughter, that's my sister, that's my niece. So gangs are turning to selling children right around us. I mean, like, this is a known fact. This is, like I said, I can send you story, I can send you information, Google it yourself. Everything I tell you, I can back up. And most of my information comes from the FBI's website or speaking with law officers, detectives, and people that do this for a living every single day. They say it's the second largest criminal industry in the United States next to drugs. That means drugs is the first illegal, the highest generating money machine in America. Next to that is selling human beings. This is 2015, and the second largest criminal industry in the United States of America is selling human beings. That's insane. I mean, that's just crazy. But the thing about it that you need to know is when you sell drugs, you can only sell them once. You smoke a joint, it's gone. You do a line, it's gone. You pop a pill, it's gone. But a person, you can sell over and over and over again and generate a lot of money on one person over and over and over again. It's a very, very sad statistic. It's very lucrative, as I mentioned, and as I said, gangs are turning to it. Why? Like how? Like, okay, Kelly, really? Like, I've sat down with our mayor in Collingswood. I've sat down with reporters. I've sat down with all kinds of people who will say to me, really? Like, aren't you exaggerating? Like, how? Like, how is this happening and why? Like, you sure it's not just an isolated case here and there? Well, I'm here to tell you right now that one of the main reasons, the culprit, that which feeds human trafficking, human sex trafficking, is hardcore pornography addiction. Okay, it just is. And let me tell you, and I say this often, never before in history, never before have we had what we're going through right now, because we can't even gauge what this is going to look like in 10 years, because never before in history have we had hardcore, violent, graphic pornography at the push of a button. Right now, all I have to do is literally type in one word, 2 words, and I have anything that I want, like a menu. I can just type it in, I want this, I want that, and bam, video after video after video after video can download. Hardcore pornography is fueling human trafficking. There'll be those who might oppose that. I'm telling you what I know based on what I have studied and I have researched and I have seen firsthand in the past several years of doing this organization and speaking and learning. Pornography is fueling human trafficking, and it just is. And we need to know that. Who's buying these children, 12, 13, 14-year-old children, who's buying them? They're called Johns, and they're not just men. They're women as well, but they're predominantly men. And they're called Johns. That's the nickname we give them. So whenever you hear me say John, what I'm talking about is the person that's purchasing another person for sex. And so why are they who are they? There's statistics that will say, you know what? Like, see, I think in our head we think it's going to look one way. These things say that it's 95% white men, married, businessmen are purchasing children to do these hideous things to. I mean, that's insane, and I think that's one of my first jobs when I go out and I speak. And I'm sorry, I know there are children here. You know, one of the first things I do is shatter the mindsets of what it looks like. You know, we think it's a thug on the streets of doing drugs and this and that. Yes, that's there, but they're not the only ones purchasing. And you're going to see, and when we show this video clip, young girls, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. I was speaking to a detective in Atlantic City, and you know what he said? He was leaving our meeting to go talk to a 12-year-old who they had just rescued from a hotel in Atlantic City. A couple months prior, they had rescued a 9-year-old. This is my state. This isn't my state. This is our state. This is the state of New Jersey, and this is going on. You know, and my husband and I have had so many conversations, and sometimes I get a bit consumed at times. I get a bit overwhelmed sometimes, you know. Sometimes I read these things and I cry. I read these stories and I cry because I realize, you know, this is huge. This is massive. This is insane. This is crazy. And you know what? I want to go back to 4 years ago where I never heard of this, where I never heard of human trafficking, where I didn't know what happened to these little children. I want to go back in time, but I can't because I do now know. And I often say ignorance is no longer ignorance. Once you know the facts, it then becomes a choice. And see, I have a choice today that this which I know, I have an opportunity to share it. You know, not so that I drop this heavy stuff on you, heavy baggage on you. I do not want you leaving tonight feeling horrible. I want you to leave feeling empowered that, yes, this is the reality, but even a greater reality is that I can do something about it. So that's how I would like you to leave tonight. And if you don't, please come talk to me. Okay? Supply and demand. Okay, this is how human trafficking is happening. We could go out tonight and rescue every single person off the streets that's being sold for human trafficking, but the bottom line is tomorrow they'll be right back out there because it's not the girls that are the problem. The problem is there is a demand, and where there is a demand, the pimps and the traffickers will make sure that they bring the supply. Do you know that I'm not even on my notes, I'm sorry, I try really hard to stay on these notes, but do you know that last year, the Super Bowl, obviously everybody knows, was in New Jersey, and I know the Philadelphia Eagles were not there, but okay, along with the Super Bowl, there's added exploitation, always. You know, sometimes the numbers are grossly exaggerated that you'll see on the news. That doesn't matter. The reality is, when you have a large event, no matter what it is, especially a sporting event where it's predominantly male attendees, and there's going to be added testosterone and added alcohol, you're going to have added exploitation, and you're going to have escort agencies being called off the hook. That's where these girls are being sold, it's through escort agencies and through the internet and through online. Last year, 2 weeks prior, within a 2-week period of the Super Bowl, we had 200 arrests for human trafficking between New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. That's a heck of a lot of arrests within a 2-week period of the Super Bowl because our state was alert to it. July before that, the year before that, July, there was a huge bust across the country, and it was called Operation Cross Country. And it's an ongoing thing. You'll see, if you Google it, you'll see it's ongoing through the FBI. And their whole goal is to rescue underage children. You know, they want to get the older ones as well, but their goal and their focus, they're driven to help rescue these underage children. So in July, before the Super Bowl, they had rescued 105 children, and they had arrested 150 traffickers across the country. I mean, this is across our country. Do you know how many were from our state out of 150 that were arrested? Take a wild guess. 70. 70. So almost 50% of the traffickers that were arrested in the United States of America across our country, almost 50% were from our state less than 2 years ago. So when somebody says to me, oh, human trafficking isn't really happening, let's talk. Let's talk, because it is. Out of those 105 children that were rescued, I don't know how many were from New Jersey originally, because what happens is they get taken state to state, right? And so, but out of those children that were rescued in New Jersey, because of our new legislation that passed almost 2 years ago, we have some really good legislation. We have some really good leadership in New Jersey fighting human trafficking on every angle. And because of that legislation, the children who were rescued were able to go to safe places where they could get healed and get on their road of recovery in other states where they were rescued, because their laws haven't changed yet. I don't know if anybody here is from Philadelphia, but Pennsylvania's laws have not changed yet. And because of that, the children that were rescued, they were being sold. It was absolutely proven they were taken state to state and being sold. Most of them were from the missing children that you see on milk bottles and all those things. These were children that were kidnapped, ran away, missing. Out of those children that were rescued in Pennsylvania, they were thrown into a detention center and labeled a prostitute, because their laws have not changed yet. And because their laws have not changed, there's nothing else they can do other than to call them a criminal, put a label on them. So here's a child who had been hurt over and over and over again, who had been traumatized over and over and over again. And when they finally get rescued and they think somebody's there to help them, the only thing the people could do, their only option legally, was to throw this child into a detention center. And so if you're from Pennsylvania, we'll get at the end, we're going to talk about what can you do. That's one of the things you can do. You can say this is an outrage. I mean, I say it's an outrage, but it holds more weight when it's coming from a voter in that state. And so I'll write them all the time. And they have some good people fighting it. They just haven't turned the tide yet in Pennsylvania. But Randy, are we good with this video clip? Yeah. We're going to show this quick video clip, and just to give you a little bit more of what I'm talking about. Not a problem. I can start doing a dance up here. And
So, if you pay the price, you get what you want, I get it for you. Really? Now, if you want something really young, that $200 I'll cost you, this costs a little more than that.
Sure.
How you ever talk? How come that?
Well, how young do you head?
Well, I don't have nothing younger than 14.
Okay, now 14 is good.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Well, you're going to have to add something to that.
Sure.
What you willing to add to that too, this top 20?
Well, like I said, this is my first time out.
You know, now you...
So the girls over here cost $2, is that?
That's the women.
The women.
Now, if I told you 2, and you want something younger, I tell you to add something to it, just tell me, you just pick a figure to that.
Well, I guess, 3?
3. You do 3, you got it.
He definitely used to beat us, like, he'll probably stump you out, like, stump you, like, when you're on the ground, physically stump you. Yeah. He'll probably hit you with a belt, physically slap you, punch you.
He would beat me with broomsticks, handles, he would burn me with candles. He would take metal hangers and beat me with them and poke me with them, belts, anything that he can get his hands on, he would beat me with. The one time he had beat me so bad that he had ruptured my spleen and had put me in the intensive care unit. So it's like, once you knew that he could almost kill you, you'd rather do what he says than to get beat again.
If you coming up, that'd be like 150. Okay. They come to you alcohol, that'd be like 200. Okay. And I got a hotel room, so that's an alcohol. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so 200 each. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so I'll give you 400. I give you 200, or I give it to you. Right. Okay, so I'll give you 400, and then we can tip the girls whatever on top of that. Okay, yes, ma'am. Is that all right with you? How long? I run all this. Okay, these my girls. Oh, okay. They don't do nothing but look pretty.
all the same age. There would be a few girls that I knew that were like in their 20s or whatever, but they had been doing it since they were our age anyways. I did wait till 12, and these girls were doing it since they were like 8 or 9, and now they're like 23.
I want to show them and tell them like what it feel like to be that hoe, to be degraded all the time, to be hit on, to be manipulated, to be sold all day, every day. Who was there to stop it? Nobody was there to stop it.
I have probably seen that video, I don't know, 40, 50 times. And every time, I've got to hold it together so I don't cry at the end when she says, who was there to stop it? And everything in me says, I will be! I will be! It's like, that's the call in my own heart, my own spirit. Like, no, I can't stop everyone, but I'll be darned if I'm going to close my eyes to the reality that this is happening across our country. And I know this is heavy stuff, and I'm really sorry for the young ones. I know this is intense. And I'll try to switch gears a little bit, because one of my goals as personally and as an organization is not to just go out there and just say, hey, whoosh, and dump this on everyone. It's to go out, and one thing I really want to do is I want to help parents, and I want to help children navigate social media. Because yes, predominantly the main place that these children are being picked up is out on the street, the runaways. Sadly enough in New Jersey, and I don't even like saying this term, but the detective used it, and it just broke my heart. But what they call children who nobody wants is throwaway children. And in New Jersey, we have many, quote, throwaway children. Children who are running away from something worse than what they're running to. And so predominantly, they are the ones who are at risk, especially in our state. I was talking to Detective Paul in Atlantic City, and he said the number one place that children are being picked up in Atlantic City is the court system, the juvenile court system. That these pimps will come in and they'll sit there. And as this child is sitting up here in front of the judge, and the judge is telling their life story, hey, you ran away because this happened to you, and this happened to you, and this happened to you, the pimp is sitting there listening, because now he has a vulnerable victim that he's going after. Just like a vulture, and as soon as that child gets down and gets to the front door, he runs up and says, hey, I'll take care of you. I'll be your daddy. I'll take care of you. I'll fill in the gap, everywhere where your life is broken. And so that's the number one place that this is happening. But me, what I'm after as well, is getting parents and children really aware of what's going on social media. My daughter and I have a daily war. I made a huge mistake of purchasing her an iPhone last year and thinking that with all the parental controls and everything was cool and we were good to go. Let me tell you what. The apps that are out there are utterly insane. And because I do what I do, I'm aware of some of these applications that are available on the phone. And my thing is shrinking here. And so one of the worst apps out there is called Kick. And the reason that it's bad is, number one, is there are no parental controls on it. And number two, within this app, there are these things called cards. So you can leave this card of pornography or all these different files within Kick, and a parent would never know what was going on if their child was on Kick. Well, because of the parental controls, excuse me, my daughter was not able to get Kick. Initially, she did. I was able to get rid of it. I don't know if you saw just last week, there was a young boy, 12 years old, who was sexually assaulted by a man that he met on Kick. See, the number one dangerous thing about social media and the internet for our children, and even many parents, I see many parents put things on the internet like their daughter's full name, their daughter's full birthday, their address, their dog's name, where their daughter goes to school, a picture of her in her soccer uniform and where she plays soccer and the name of everything. That's really dangerous, Because I don't know if you know on your phone, if you have an iPhone, it's on all phones, all smartphones, but I'm only familiar with the iPhone. There's a location button on there for every one of your apps. So right now, of course, when I came here, I checked in to your church. So it's all over Facebook that I'm at this church. Well, I'm quite confident I'm okay, that nobody's going to run out to pick me up. But, you know, if you have a child and you have a predator who's watching her or him on the internet, and she's at the mall with her friends, and she posts a picture on Instagram, that other person who's following her on social media can immediately find her location if the location button is on. And 9 out of 10 times, the location buttons are on our phones. When you post a picture on Facebook, somebody can tell exactly where you are. When you write on Twitter, right now, if I write on Twitter, it will say Oaklyn, New Jersey on my Twitter feed, because this is where I'm tweeting from, because we have locations on here. Now, you want the location button on there so that she can be found if you need to find her. I don't know how to make this tighter. Oh, okay. But you don't want the location button being used for everything that they do, every time they post a picture on Instagram. I did a little study, like my own little personal thing, and I went on Facebook, and I went on to a friend of a friend of a friend's kind of deal. Happened to be a pastor in Marlton's daughter. And I was not her friend, okay? I just happened to be friends of somebody that she was friends with. But because her settings were not safe, this beautiful 18-year-old girl, I could tell you everything about her. I can tell you where she lives. I can tell you her dog's name. I can tell you where she plays sports. I can tell you who she hangs out with and who her best friends are. And I've never met the girl in my life. And I can tell you all kinds of things about her, how to identify her, and how to go get her. I can download her pictures without her even knowing. Now, I don't want you leaving and taking away all your children's devices because they will call me and hate me. That's not the point. The point is to be smart, to use wisdom, to help. First of all, you need to know it. Know how many parents say, well, I don't know, I have no idea. Learn. Find out the apps that are on your children's phones, and then put the same apps on your phone and learn how to navigate it, learn how to use it, so that you can come up beside your child. See, it's not your child that's the issue. Most of our children, like that's what my daughter gets all offended, that she thinks, like I'm not trusting her. It doesn't have to do, it has nothing to do with her. What it has to do with the reality that I know all these predators that are out there and what they're up to and what they want to do to her if they get her. And so that's what I'm trying to teach her on her level. So one of the things that I do, I'm not trying to freak people out, but I want to just scare you enough that you say, you know what? Let me be wise with what I put on my settings, how I work my settings, what applications I have, what's on my phone, how young my child is on the phone, if they're behind closed doors. As I mentioned, the boy was 12 years old last week. It was in the news that he was assaulted sexually, and it was all through a guy that he met on Kick. Just because, and I tell this to the youth groups I speak to all the time and in high schools, just because that good-looking 17-year-old guy wants to be your friend on Facebook, it doesn't mean he's a good-looking 17-year-old guy. He could be a 60-year-old pervert out to hurt you or worse. And so that's the things that I'm trying to do, is I'm not trying to freak people out, but I want to help you navigate social media. And if you don't know, learn. Bottom line is, it is 2015, and we are inundated with incredible technology, and we need to learn how to use it. Putting our head in the sand is not an option. There are too many apps out there that are incredibly dangerous, and we need to learn how to maneuver that. I'm not going to get into all of them tonight, but I'm going to put a bunch of them up on my website next week, so that if you want to go to my website, I'm going to have a link called Social Media. Go on there. There'll be all kinds of tips, different articles, ways to navigate. As much as I know, every day new apps are coming out that I don't even know about, that I have to go in and research. And my daughter, I'm always on her phone. And the only way she can have a phone is if I know the password. I know the password, and I'm on that phone, not because I'm overprotective, but because I'm a wise woman and I'm a wise mother who's going to make sure that her child is not harmed. If I can, within my means of protecting her, I will. Where else is human trafficking occurring? I keep mentioning the internet. Let me give you a couple examples, okay? There's a site called Backpage.com. If you don't believe me, adults only can pull it up, and don't do it with any children in the room. I highly encourage you to make sure that they're not in the room. But Backpage.com, it is a classified. It's an online classified. You can buy and sell anything on there. Well, including sex, okay? Although you can't call it sex, you have to call it escorts or massage or erotic massage or any of these other fancy names that we give it. Every single trafficking case that I've been aware of in the past couple of years, every single one, the people have been put on Backpage.com. The victims have been put on Backpage.com. Even yesterday, this girl that was found, her picture was put on Backpage.com. She was sold on Backpage.com. I mentioned legislation earlier from the state of New Jersey. Part of our legislation was to hold Backpage.com responsible for selling underage victims on their website. We had a judge in Newark who said, I don't think that's fair. We're not going to do that. Because, see, 48 United States Attorney Generals have approached Backpage.com and 48 United States Attorney, that's okay, thank you. I appreciate that. My life's on air. 48 United States Attorney Generals have approached Backpage.com and said, you know what? You need to have some morals here. You need to do what's right because children are being sold on your site. Thank you. And they said, well, it's legal. We can do it. They're making millions of dollars every month selling children, underage girls and boys on Backpage.com. And I know if you're anything like me, I didn't believe it when I heard it. I don't care how many stories I read. I need to see it myself. And so I went on the Backpage, and I started seeing. I did it yesterday when I saw this incident in Cherry Hill where the guy was arrested and the girl was picked up and helped. I went on the Backpage.com, and I literally typed in erotic escort Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and hundreds came up. Hundreds. And that's one of the things that just as a citizen, I get really angry at because we want to protect the perpetrator's rights all the time, and I don't understand that. I understand we all have rights, but I don't understand how they can continue to get away with selling underage victims on their site. Now, I will say this. It's a double-edged sword. The very thing that the traffickers are using, the very site that the traffickers are using, is the very tool that our FBI uses every single day to locate these victims. That's how they found the girl yesterday. They went on Backpage.com and they set up a fake date with her, went to the hotel and found out she was being held against her will. So it's a double-edged sword, but it's still wrong. Massage parlors, strip clubs, escort agencies, there's all kinds of places that human trafficking has taken place. And sometimes it's just a matter of opening up our eyes. There was a place in Westmont, New Jersey, right down the street from us, and I was getting my nails done, and somebody happened to put the bug in my ear that next door to the nail salon where a massage parlor was, directly across the street from the fire company, somebody put the bug in my ear that, hey, go by that massage parlor, you're going to notice that you can't see inside of it, that there are dark curtains from floor to ceiling with a neon light. The men are entering and exiting through the back door into the alleyway. And they're open to 1 o'clock in the morning. Red flag. Do I just ignore that or do I do something about that? So Detective Kelly here went onto the internet, and I went onto the site called Erotic Massage Reviews. Just like you can review a restaurant, you can review these places. And so I found some of these reviews, very descriptive, printed them out, went down to my mayor's office and said, here, I know this is Westmont, but it's coming up as Collingswood because we share the same zip code. We share the same zip code with you guys too, right? And so we share the same zip code, and so I gave it to my mayor, and shortly thereafter there was an arrest, and they arrested them for prostitution, but honestly, I really think it was trafficking because these girls were from another country. They were sleeping on the floor in the back room, but at that point, our local law officers were not trained in human trafficking, so no disrespect to them at all. But these are the kind of things that are going on around us, and we have the opportunity to simply be a set of eyes. When you see something that looks wrong, call the human trafficking hotline number. They don't care if you're wrong. I'll give you the number at the end. They don't care if you're wrong. They'd rather you call and be wrong than not call and be right. Okay, so let's keep going here. I don't know if I'm going to read that with the little kids here, so I'm going to keep going. I want to tell you about Holly Austin Smith, who I mentioned earlier. When Holly was living in Mount Holly, New Jersey, or in that area, she was 14 at the time, and she was having some troubles at home, and she went to the mall And she would hang out at the mall. And this guy, see, what the pimps and the traffickers will tell you is they prey on vulnerable children. They will look for the one who doesn't look secure. They will look for the one who has her head hanging down low. They'll look for the one who looks like she needs some affirmation because she's not getting it at home. And that's exactly what he found in Holly. And so he began affirming Holly. He began calling Holly. He began telling Holly how beautiful she was and that she should run away from home with him, because he could take her to Hollywood and make her an actress. And see, she was 14, and so she ran away from home. And she went with this guy, and he took her down to Atlantic City. And he violated her, and he abused her, and then he stuck her out on the streets of Atlantic City at 14 years old and began pimping her out. Luckily, or thankfully for Holly, within 36 hours, the police saw her on the street. Unfortunately, at the time, because we didn't use the word human trafficking, we only labeled them prostitutes. Holly was labeled a prostitute and thrown into a detention center, and nobody looked deeper to the fact and the reality that Holly was being victimized. That's why Holly wrote this book, and that's why Holly works with the law officers now, so when the next victim is caught, and then you'll see they did it yesterday in Cherry Hill, instead of labeling that woman and identifying her as a prostitute, the first thing they did was they labeled her as a victim, which is good for them because they need to know that I was victimized. This was not my fault, and I can get help. In New Jersey as well, when a girl who was caught, quote, prostituting, if it's proven that she was trafficked, her record is clean. No longer will she have that on her record, which is a really good thing because labels matter. So that was Holly. A friend of mine, Val, if you go on my site, excuse me, there's a video. My friend Val's from Cherry Hill, and I'm not going to show her video. Actually, I think it was in a newspaper article. If anybody saw the newspaper article, the online newspaper article yesterday from Matt, who did a little write-up about human trafficking and the arrest. But my friend Val was working in Cherry Hill at McDonald's. She was 17 at the time, and she was working at drive-thru, and this guy came through, and same thing. Hey, baby, you're so pretty. You're so pretty. What are you doing working here making $5 an hour? I can make you a model, and you can make more money in one weekend working for me than you can make here in 2 months. Then he'd send in other girls. Hey, y'all, to work for Joe because Joe will hook you up and Joe will take care of you. What are you doing working here? You know how much cool it is working for Joe? Here, take Joe's card. And they would just keep grooming her. See, the grooming process where I'm going to get you to trust me. I'm going to give you things that I'm going to get you to trust me. And he would go in and he would groom her. And one night, Val got in a fight with her dad, and she was 18 now. And it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and she called this guy. And this guy picked her up, and the first thing he did was take her to Philadelphia. But Dad called the cops, and so this guy got scared and took her down to Florida and sold her to a pimp. This is a girl from Cherry Hill with a 2-parent family. Dad still has a Cherry Hill business. I mean, this is not the girl on the streets doing drugs that we would imagine it being, No, she wasn't perfect, but she was a typical teenager. And so now she's down in Florida. And she's sold to a pimp, and she's branded. And what a branding is what these traffickers will do is they're going to stick literally a tattoo on your body. And if I have 8 girls in my little cattle and my little stall, I'm going to brand them all with my name so that every other pimp and every other person knows those girls belong to me, so don't mess with them. And so she got branded. She still has it to this day on her ankle, but she has a rose nail on top of it to cover up his name. And then she was sold. Every single night, every single day, she had to work 10 hours, and she had to bring back $13,000 a week to this guy. That was her quota, as she was sold over and over and over and over again. When she was sold in Philadelphia, she was sold right on the back of a local newspaper that you get off the streets. We sat down with an FBI detective recently because, see, for years, Val just didn't deal with it. For years, because this guy didn't kidnap her and because she went with him willingly, she just thought she was a willing participant, even though he was selling her, threatening her, and she was giving him $13,000 a week and not making a penny. She was still convinced because she was so brainwashed from his grooming process that she was the victim, she was the criminal. And so we finally sat down with an FBI detective recently, and she told him everything. And she said, you pick up those newspapers that show escorts, they're girls being pimped and sold right here in our area, in New Jersey, in Cherry Hill, in Oakland, in Philadelphia. And so Val was sold for $13,000 a week. She was able to get away and come back home. She still has a lot of demons that she's working through, a lot of issues and a lot of healing that she needs, but I thank God that she got out, because you know what they say, only 1% will get out. And I thank God Val was one of the 1% that was able to get out. But this was in Cherry Hill. I mean, and I've known Val since she was 4 years old. I mean, like, this was in Cherry Hill, just a pretty little blonde girl in 12th grade at high school who gets sold to a trafficker and has to make $13,000 a week or face the consequences for not doing it. So, I mean, so this is happening, like I said, all around us. Last year it was in Deptford, Crown Plaza, Cherry Hill, and so we're just going to move along because I don't know where we are on time here. But social media, as I mentioned, communicate with your children, okay? How do we deal with this? Okay, I'm talking about Val, I'm talking about this one, I'm talking about all these places. What do? Talk with our children, communicate with your children. Don't shut down their electronics, but help them navigate it. Reality is we're living in this age, help them. Equip yourself. If you have any questions, ask me. You know, change your privacy settings, change your location settings, resource yourself. Follow us on social media. I am continuously, every single day, researching stories, looking up on the FBI site, talking to FBI, talking to the Attorney General's office. I'm getting the information, and I'm getting it out there because I am passionate about making sure that our children are safe. I'm speaking at a Camden High School in a couple of weeks. I'm speaking at a high school out in Chemung. I want to speak in high schools. I speak at universities often, but I want to get in middle schools and high schools because our children, they're untouchable. They're invincible. Nothing. I mean, my daughter tells me all the time, I'm ridiculous. I don't know what I'm talking about. You know, like she knows it all. 13 years old. She's got it all figured out. You know, I'm like, oh my goodness. Like sometimes you just want to shake her, you know. My sons, I have 2 older boys from my first marriage, and one of my son's cousin on the other side, she was 12 at the time. And I don't know what she was doing on Facebook at 12, but that's her mom's issue, not mine. And so she was on Facebook, and she was communicating with a really cute 14-year-old boy. And this 14-year-old boy was telling her how pretty she was and all this stuff. And then one night, the 14-year-old boy says, hey, I got my dad's car. I'm going to come pick you up. And I'm like, and so she's going to go. And she doesn't tell her mom. Her mom happens to intercept the message on the cell phone and calls the cops because she thinks this 14-year-old boy is going to go take his dad's car. Turns out the 14-year-old boy was a 34-year-old man who knew she was a 12-year-old girl on the internet. So it's just a matter of just teaching our kids and, you know, keeping them safe. And, you know, and here's something key. Like, you might walk away from here and say, well, all right, that was all great stuff, but what am I going to do with it? A couple of years ago, there was a woman who attended a seminar similar to this, but much more, like, you know, really in depth. And they covered everything, and they covered the signs to look for. And she was a stewardess for Delta, and she happened to be on the airplane coming home from that seminar, and she saw something that looked off. She saw this woman with 2 kids, and the way that this woman was treating the kids and interacting with the children, she just said, something's off here. And so she called the human trafficking hotline number, and 62 children were arrested from a human trafficking ring because one woman, one mother, saw something wrong because she saw the signs and what to look for. So if you see something off, trust it. Because the worst that can happen if you call, you're wrong. That's the worst. The best that can happen is somebody gets rescued and somebody gets restored, and then somebody's going to get thrown in jail. So, I mean, don't be afraid. I mean, you don't have to be a vigilante and run around, because sometimes I'll pass some of these, like, hotels, and I'm, like, staring, and I'm looking, because I'm just waiting, because if I see a kid, I'm calling, And it's like, so sometimes I have to watch my own self because of all the things that I've learned. But, one of the things that we do, I don't know if Randy has any here, we have the human trafficking hotline number for the state of New Jersey. And I don't know if any of you have seen that yet. This is through the New Jersey State Attorney General's office. They created it last year during the Super Bowl. And what this hotline number does is it goes in, we're canvassing the state. We're trying to get it into every public restroom that we possibly can, but strategic places like the casinos, like bars, like this girl Val I was telling you about who was making $13,000. If she met her quota, every Sunday she got to go to the mall, and she got to get her nails done, and she got to get her hair done, and she got to buy one outfit every single week if she met her quota. What if, when Val was in the bathroom at one of those places, in a tanning salon, what if when she was in one of these places she had seen the human trafficking hotline number, And she had called it, maybe she wouldn't have been as traumatized and had experienced all that she had experienced. So we're trying to get these numbers in every key strategic place, up and down the freeway, up in, like in Atlantic City, bus stations. And when Irene and I travel, we've gone a few places together, we have these little cards with the National Human Trafficking Hotline number. And every bathroom we go into, we put it in there. The toilet paper, we put it there. The mirror, we put it there. Anywhere that we can get this number. And it seems like a silly little act. But let me tell you what, if you're the victim and you see that number, it's almost like, wow, somebody sees me, I'm not invisible, and I can get some help. You know, and so these are just little general ways that you can help out. When you pass a massage parlor and it's open to 10 o'clock at night, red flag, call. Because it might not be trafficking, it might be prostitution, but either way, it's illegal and somebody's being sold. And so these places I call all the time. There was just a bust in Marlton where Irene used to live in Marlton. I was on Backpage.com and I was doing my own investigation and I found all these places and I sent them to my FBI contact. I have no idea what happened because he doesn't owe me an explanation once I send it to him, but I will tell you every one of those places got busted recently in Marlton. So I know that they're paying attention. So when you see these things, call, because you don't know who you're going to be helping. You don't know who you're going to be, seeing set free there. Let me see what else I got here. Write your legislators. I already told you that. Another big thing for me, one of my pet peeves is when I read an article in the newspaper and it says 14-year-old prostitute arrested. I freak out, okay? I do. I don't physically freak out, but inside I freak out. And I write the editor and I write the columnist and I said, excuse me, 14-year-old cannot be a prostitute. It's called child rape. That's what it's called. Let's call it what it is. And so when I see those kind of articles where they're calling these children prostitutes, they're not prostitutes. They're going to call them a prostitute, but they're going to call the guy a John. No. He's a criminal, and she's an innocent 14-year-old girl who's being sold against her will. And in New Jersey, with our legislation, it doesn't matter. When you're under 18, it doesn't matter whether you say you chose to prostitute yourself or not. If you're under 18, it's automatically human trafficking because that child is being raped by somebody. So let me move on here. If you work in a school system, please ask if there's a way to get a seminar in there, whether it's me or another organization. Let's make these kids aware, the admin aware. There are too many people that have been trafficked and then go to school and nobody knows what to look for. We can help them with that. Keep the hotline number with you and call, like I mentioned. And here's the number if you want it, or you can come see me afterwards. This is the New Jersey hotline number, and it's 855-363-6548, and I can give it to you afterwards as well. And then there's a national number if you're in another state. It's really important. It's really important to be able to call these places. And I don't want to leave here tonight on a heavy note, so I asked Randy if I could share a much happier video at the end. And I'm going to quickly, because I know I'm over my time, so I'm not going to look at Randy or the pastor because they'll let me know. So I'm going to be like this really quick because I promise to be quick because I don't want to put anybody asleep. But this will wake you up, I promise, okay? We have two arms to our organization. I just stood and told you for the last hour about Dining for Dignity and what we do and why we do it and why we're so passionate. Well, the other arm of our organization is called Emerge, and that's what we were taking collections for tonight. Emerge, what we do is we deal with the legal side of the sex industry, the adult industry. So Dining for Dignity deals with the illegal side. Well, Emerge deals with the legal side. And what do I mean by that? I mean strip clubs. I mean adult bookstores. I mean pornography conventions. Our organization, we go to these places, and every single month we have been building relationship and friendship with girls in strip clubs across New Jersey and across Philadelphia. And our goal is not to get them out of there, although if they choose to do that, awesome. Our goal is to go in there and empower them woman to woman and let them know that you have value and you have worth and that we're going to see you with eyes of dignity no matter what has happened to you, because I know that over 90% of the women in strip clubs have already been sexually assaulted. That's why they're making the choices that they're making. So we come up beside them, and I call it building bridges, and we just build bridges with these girls. We love on these girls. We just offer them hope. We offer them support. We offer them encouragement, and you're going to see on this quick, do we have time for the video? Is it too late? We good? You're going to see real quick, there's this one girl, we don't say her by name, but she goes to my church, and she left the industry. She went on a foreign missions trip. She now serves, and she's one of the people that collects collects money, which I think is awesome, that she's collecting money for God now instead of having money thrown at her feet, naked, dancing. And so that's part of what we do as Emerge, is we go in and we touch the legal side of the adult industry. And I want you to see this. And we'll end there because that way it's a happier note, okay? This is fun. You're going to like this. A couple of years ago, I read a book called Stars and Stilettos, and it really touched my heart. And it was about an exotic dancer, a former exotic dancer, who was no longer working in the industry. But it was telling all the behind-the-scenes activity. At the same time, I was having a great conversation with an amazing woman who she used to be in the adult industry as well. She used to be working in strip clubs also, and she's told me a lot of her heartache and pain that she still works through. And so between her story and reading this other story of Harmony, I realized, I can make a difference. I can do something about this. For me, Emerge has been an incredible experience to go out into the public and to offer love and hope to girls who are working in the adult industry. Every month we have an opportunity to simply look them in the eye and let them know that they have value and that they have worth and that they are incredibly loved.
Emerge to me is such an amazing thing because it's where the rubber meets the road.
God wants us to shine light in the dark places, and that's definitely what we're doing.
I am a mom, and I am a second grade teacher at a local elementary school. But on my weekends, once a month, I have the privilege of going into the strip clubs with the Emerge team. I just love it so much. It's absolutely a highlight for me each month to go in and see the women and just tell them how much we love them, how much value they have, how much worth they have.
I believe that if Jesus walked the earth today, he would go right to those people. And he would present a life-changing message of the gospel to them. And that's really what Emerge and what Kelly is doing.
They look forward to us coming every month. And not even just the girls. I mean, the bouncers, they love, when we come, and the managers and the house mom.
I feel girls don't feel judged at all when they come. I think they just see us as normal people. They connect with us as moms. A lot of them are moms. We share about our lives. We share about things that are happening with my kids at home.
Each month we have an opportunity to go out into the clubs, and we take about 300 of these little bags into clubs across South Jersey and Philadelphia. And inside these bags we have our business card, and we have a pair of earrings and some makeup, and just a little token to say to these girls that we think you're awesome. We just want to add dignity to them. We just want to extend dignity. We want them to know that they are awesome, that they are loved, and that they are valued.
Oh, the girls think it's great. They look forward to it. When you give them these little gifts, their eyes light up. It can be a dull, boring, lonely night, and we give them these nice little gifts, and it just raises their spirits and it brightens their night.
You may think of a quote-unquote stripper or dancer, and you think of them as maybe a certain type of person. Well, listen, I've met some of them now. I've seen them change. They're people, and they have hearts, and God has transformed them. And now, several of them went on a foreign mission trip with us this summer and served, and it was awesome. One of them serves on one of our ministry teams on Sundays, and is there in service and worshiping. It's awesome to see.
We love you guys so much, honestly. I know a dancer, I know I'm paid to lie, but totally not right now. I love you guys. You guys bring us cookies and all sorts of snacks and makeup, all the good stuff, right?
I love when you guys come here, especially, when I'm going through my hard times. I can easily just text you or call you, or when you come in, I can talk to you, and you just give me references and different resources on trying to help different situations that I'm going through. And you just threw me a baby shower because I didn't have anything for my son.
We gave her an incredible shower. We took a collection and we bought her everything that she needed. I mean, from soup to nuts, everything that mama needed for her baby, we took care of it for her.
We brought in the food, we brought in the decorations, we brought in the stroller, the diapers, the formula, everything that she needed, because we wanted her to know that there are people that care about you, that care about your baby, and that we love you no matter what. We're not going to judge you. We just want to help you.
It's nice that you guys constantly remind us about how much, Jesus loves us. Jesus loves strippers.
Do you like when we come to strip clubs?
Honestly, I've been working here on and off for the past 2.5 years. These ladies are awesome.
Thank you.
They are nice to the girls. They're nice to us, which is always great. And it's a pleasure seeing them when they come.
I think what you guys are doing is cool, and it's, I don't know, it's a nice thing to have you guys come around as well.
It's good for the industry, honestly. They make the girls see that it's not not really a lifestyle, but it's that they're people. They're not just a piece of meat, or they really honestly listen to them, and you help us out. You help us out with the girls that are in trouble. And
I think they're great. They're really nice, and they're caring, and they're compassionate. And I think you should support them in their endeavors and what they do.
These girls are awesome. They come in, all the girls enjoy it. It's a great time. Every time they come in, all the girls get so excited and happy. They're awesome. You should definitely support them.
We don't realize that some of these people out there, some of these girls in the club sitting in the dark, far corner, happen to sell their bodies sometimes, or happen to do things that they don't want to do. But they need hope. They need a reason to go on. They need just a little bit more to hold on to let them know that, you know what, you are worth it. You're going to make it, and don't quit.
Yay, that's it. So if you have any questions, just I'm going to be done here because I know I could talk forever, and especially I love those girls. I mean, I sat there crying again. I just love those girls. I love it so much, what we have the opportunity to do. And sex trafficking happens in clubs as well. We just don't go in there looking for it. If it's brought to my attention, we'll address it and we'll deal with it. And we make ourselves available to the girls so that if they are being trafficked, they can reach out to us. They trust us. We're a trusting face for them. You see how they love us, and it's like, so if one of those girls are in trouble, they'll reach out to us, and then we have the resources and the people to connect them to get them out of that trouble. And so thank you for your time. I don't want to keep talking. I'm going to have Randy come back up, but thank you, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I had one. Do you want me to answer it up here or downstairs?
I don't want to take much. There we go. We don't want you to leave here today scared and in fear. It is a scary thing, but it's to be aware. It's to know what's happening, to be aware of your surroundings, to be aware of what's going on in your kids' life, to have a relationship with them, to know what's going on in their social media. I love Kelly's passion. I've known her for years, as I said earlier, but her passion for this is crazy, but a good crazy. But she does so much, and she does it out of goodwill. She doesn't really get paid for this, but she does it, and she spends lots of time. She doesn't just come and present stuff. She's talking to legislation. She has meetings with people all the time. I've talked to other people like, yeah, I just had a meeting with Kelly. She's talking to people in the Jersey state legislation. She's talking to lawyers, trying to get things moving. She's a person that cares about people. And I think it's important to support people like that and support a ministry. We did collect some things tonight, but if you ever want to drop stuff off, I own a coffee shop in the Treehouse in Audubon. I'm willing to take it at any time. Any donations for her goodie bags, we'll definitely be willing to collect them at any time. But this thrives in secrecy, so if we don't make other people aware, so don't go out here tonight and forget what you learned. Take it with you. Tell other people. Being aware is one of the key things with this, because you never know who you're going to talk to and what might inspire them. In some of the things I've read, it was like people got inspired and they started to build shelters for the people that came out, because I don't think, did you mention that there's not many beds open for people?
No, I didn't mention.
When there's people that come that get rescued from sex trafficking or human trafficking, there's not many options open for them. So usually if it's a kid, they get thrown in a group home, and many of these group homes don't offer much for them, so they end up running away again and end up back on the streets again. Or for women, they're just thrown back into society with no help whatsoever. So just letting people know, you never know who you're going to talk to. It might be a contractor that might be inspired. It might be a psychologist. It might be a psychiatrist. Somebody that might want to do something. And there's lots of websites. Dining for Dignity is a great website. There's an organization called Polaris Project that does a lot of great stuff, and they have a lot of information, and I believe it's just polarisproject.org or .com. Just Google Polaris Project. It's another great organization. The video that she showed earlier was from Shared Hope International.
They're fantastic.
And they do stuff all over the world, but they have report cards on their website of the different states, and that's when she talked about Pennsylvania being really low. Their grade's pretty bad for human trafficking awareness and
like an
all
F.
that stuff. Yeah, it is. It's an F. I would go to seminary in Pennsylvania, so I was telling them how bad their state was, and bragging about New Jersey. Even though we're still not up there, we're still a little bit higher than.
Right.
We're getting there. Kelly mentioned that we do about the number. I have posters downstairs left over. We went out on Monday, and I had about like 8 or 10 girls went around and hung up some posters in Cherry Hill, hung up some posters in Collingswood. But you can hang them up anywhere. There's lots of posters. Please take some, hang them up, take them with you. If you have a workplace, it's even just getting the number to whoever might need it so they can tell other people. I'm not going to get too much into labor trafficking because it is getting later, but I want you to know that sex trafficking encompasses about half from what statistics say, and labor trafficking is the other half, which labor trafficking includes domestic service, which totally blew me away in my research, is that there's these people that get these 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds and make them work for 20 hours a day, scrubbing their houses, cleaning everything, taking care of their kids, not having anything to eat, not having anything to drink. You have restaurant work, janitorial work, there's sweatshops, even in America, landscaping and construction, nail salons, industrial cleaning, hospitality, and agricultural work. And it's not just happening in other countries, other states. I know not too long ago there was a bust up in North Jersey where these girls were brought in from Africa to braid hair, and these girls were like 12 or 14, and they were made to work for hours a day. And what happens, we think, well, why don't they just run away? Why don't they escape? Most of these people are kept at such a low level of sustenance. They get very little food. Usually most of them are drugged in order to keep where they are. But it's up to us just to be aware, to see what's going on. A lot of times when you go into restaurants or you go into nail salons, if these people aren't allowed to talk to you, there's usually, that's a warning sign. That's one of the warning signs, if they're not allowed to talk to you at all. But they're very manipulative. For me, one of the biggest things is just trying to make myself aware of the stuff I purchase, which isn't easy because you can't always find out the stuff you're purchasing, where it comes from. One of the websites that you can check out is www.free2, and it's the number 2, work.org. And that has a list of companies and the grades, and they get graded on 40 different standards. It doesn't have all the companies, but it's good to know different things of why you're purchasing things, because it's great to want to rescue girls, and I'm not saying anything because I think both are very important, but it's also important to know what you're buying, because you're also supporting human trafficking and the things you purchase. And it's not just looking at, all right, well, is it made in the USA? Because I didn't realize it. Stuff made in the USA is still made in sweatshops. There's independent parts of America that they can have these sweatshops and they're legal. Wow. And it's like, they're kept in behind closed walls with guns and stuff, and it's the same type of thing where it thrives in secrecy. There's other ones that happen in Philadelphia, New York. New York City is a big one for sweatshops. But it's just becoming aware of what you're purchasing. And another thing is just to try to buy things from companies like World Crafts or Survivor Made Goods, which is madebysurvivors.com. And it's just researching it. You can research where things are made. You can research who made them, and it's also, when you go into stores, asking, see if they know who made their clothes, who made their goods, what they purchased. And it's hard in America because most of our produce at this point mostly comes from, unless you bet it at farmers markets, which that season's over now, comes from slave labor, and it's sad. But I think, it's the little things that you could do in order to make a big difference. It's rescuing one girl. That makes a big difference in that girl's life. It's, calling the hotline if you think something's up. Because as I said earlier, it thrives in secrecy. And without everyone knowing, without other people knowing, it's going to continue to thrive. And there's going to continue to be more slaves in the world. Estimate of 27 million right now. 27 million too many. So that's about it. I did say there's posters downstairs. We do have refreshments downstairs, so if anybody wants to come down, you can go down their stairs back there, or you can take the elevator if you have to. And you could talk to Kelly. She has her books for sale in the back, or Holly's books. They're $20 a piece. And if you want to leave her any kind of other donation, she would greatly appreciate any kind of
Love chocolate, free trade chocolate.
But let's give Kelly a hand for coming out tonight.
Did you want me to hit them? Yeah, there's only
All right,
two.
Kelly's.
I'll just over. Am I still on? I'm just going to answer these questions quickly if I can. Am I familiar with the app Teen Safe? No, but when I go home tonight, I'll look it up, and then tomorrow, if you want to call me, email me, or whatever, and I'll give you my 2 cents on what I think about that one. And I am familiar with, which one do I use for my daughter? She hates it. Parent Kit. She doesn't like it. What I like about it is I can actually, hey Greg, how you doing? I can actually go onto my daughter's phone from my phone with Parent Kit, and I can shut her phone down. So if she gives me an attitude, I can shut her phone down right here from my phone. And I like it because I can also dictate, like, okay, it was, I don't want her getting onto anything that's age 13 and above. And I can do that from my phone. And so that's what I like about Parent Kit. There is a charge for it, but to me, it's so worth it. But I will look into that other one. And then I'm curious about the children being trafficked and how many are considered cognitively disabled and unable to properly verbalize what they have been experiencing. I know it's hard to pin down numbers, but I'm curious how our special ed teachers can train and prepare our students who are online but not fully aware of online safety. I assume that the best thing in that situation would be just to actually go through the social media, through the apps, through the different settings and the restrictions, and try to, even as I was just mentioning, like 13 and above, there's certain apps that you can actually ban from being on your these children's computers, such as Kick and these other ones that I mentioned. So if you change the settings around and get on it that way, at least you might not 100% make sure they're safe, but you'll at least minimize it greatly. And I don't know, because I haven't worked with these type of children, but I imagine if you know how to communicate on their level, I would still communicate the reality to the best that you can for them, but I would definitely make sure if they can't do it, make sure the parents, the teachers, or whoever are able to change the settings and make sure that that's safe. I mean, don't be fooled. Like, I don't know if you realize, and I know there are children, so I'm not going to go really far into it, but I had a big campaign not too long ago, Barnes & Nobles, and I'm not going to get into all of it now, but you can go to my website, but I don't want to freak out any of the kids, but you could get on the Barnes & Noble store if you went online, and my son goes there with grandmom, and you literally could type in one word, and it wasn't a bad word, it was daddy, and you could pull up all kinds of crazy, insane stuff in Barnes & Noble, and you could get free emails sent to you of all this crazy stuff, and Barnes & Noble refuses to back down. I have confronted them on it, and they basically said, too bad, we take pride in making sure that we have this material available for all of our readers, and I'm talking bad stuff, and all you had to do was type in daddy, and that kind of, so like, we have to be really careful on the settings, but if you had that setting set so that certain words couldn't pop up, that's the best that I would say right now, is just change the settings on that social media and on the computer. And that's all that I got. So if anybody has anything else, ask me downstairs. Okay? And thank you.